Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Meredith Duncan, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Phil Robertson. We warmly welcome Lieutenant Colonel Eli Mathitha, Deputy Secretary of Defence, National Security and Immigration, Fiji, who's joining us this evening. We are also pleased to welcome the band of the 1st Regiment Royal Australian Artillery. The band performed earlier today on the memorial's grounds, and the band's bugler will be playing the last post during this evening's ceremony. And we're especially pleased to acknowledge representatives of the Australian Olympic team, who will also be laying a wreath this evening. We welcome the veterans who have served, those who are still serving, and the families who support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching this evening's broadcast around Australia. This evening, wreaths will be laid by visitors as well as students on behalf of the following schools: from Queensland St Mary's College Junior School, Toowoomba, and Kenmore State School. We now please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Air Mechanic Guy Bucknell. Guy Bucknell was the only son of Guy and Isabel Bucknell of Victoria. He and his 5 sisters grew up on the family farm Kilgobbin, near Cotswold. He worked as a farmer and had trained as a motor mechanic before his enlistment in the Australian Imperial Force in May 1916. Bucknell was transferred to the Australian Flying Corps some months after enlisting and was posted to the 69th Australian Squadron of the Royal Flying Corps, based in Lincoln, England, as a mechanic. In 1917, Bucknell's health started to fail. In March, he suffered from a bout of influenza and returned to duty shortly afterwards. However, in June, he became more seriously ill and after a month in hospital was struck off the strength of the 69th Squadron. Whilst in hospital, Bucknell was regularly visited by friends who brought him gifts of fruit, and a nurse made him special treats. Nevertheless, his condition deteriorated and he became increasingly depressed. Eventually, it was decided that should he be able to maintain his strength and a suitable ship become available, he would be returned to Australia. He wrote home to say he would see his family by Christmas. In November of 1917, Bucknell's condition deteriorated further and he was taken to the #1 Australian Auxiliary Hospital in Haresfield, near London. He arrived as a stretcher case, seriously ill and emaciated. He never regained enough strength to return to Australia and died on the 4th of December in 1917. Guy Bucknell was buried in the nearby Anzac Cemetery within the church cemetery at St Mary's. He was buried with full military honours, a procession of 20 patients and a number of staff from the hospital was accompanied by a gun carriage, a firing party and a bugler. He was 22 years old. His name is listed in the Roll of Honour on my right, along with more than 60,000 Australians who died during the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Air Mechanic Guy Bucknell, who gave his life for us, for our freedom and in the hope of a better world.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, or the years condemned. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and I wish you a very good evening.